Well, hello, fellow pilgrims, members of the army of the Lord, the Lion's army, the Lion of Light, Lion of the tribe of Judah. Friends old, friends new, come on in, come on in. We don't bite here. We are friendly to everyone. I am one pilgrim from One Pilgrim's Musings. We are musing through the Psalms. We are utilizing the New King James Version of the Holy Scriptures as we muse through the Psalms. We are also utilizing work of the late Dr. Jack Hyles, who left a work behind in the public domain called The Story Behind the Psalms. He did the work to discover the authors and a succinct story behind the Psalms for each and every Psalm, some of them in groups because their history was pretty much the same and they were kind of written at the same time and over the same reasons, the same history, if you will. But most of them are individual, and they're individual stories that come with each one. We're about to enter a group, though, 93 through 99, that are kind of a group of psalms. They're prophetic psalms, kind of having to do, as we read through them, you'll see, with the second coming of Christ. Now, why Dr. Jack would put that in, considering these were written before the first coming of Christ, well, we'll have to see as we go along just what Dr. Jack is having to say about this. So the first one of this group is number 93. The author is King David. And as Dr. Jack said, these are psalms that deal with the second coming of Jesus Christ. You'll notice that Psalms 93, this one, and then when we get to it, 97 and 99, all begin with the words, "The Lord reigneth," or better still, "The Lord is become king." Now we know that David was a king. We also know that he looked forward to the day when Jesus would be the true and rightful forever king. The millennial throne is called David's throne. The Bible teaches that Jesus will someday rule and reign on the throne of David, who in a natural sense was in his lineage. Jesus was of the lineage of David. Jesus is called the root and the offspring of David. Now, these psalms dealing with the Lord's reign on earth were sung as a series of psalms in the temple. In some cases, they were sung together as one psalm. And it is said that the 95th Psalm is still used today in synagogues on Friday as part of their order of prayer. So, according to Dr. Jack, he feels that when Christians get a little hungry for Jesus to come, aren't we all? And his mouth begins to water for the millennium reign of Christ, you can find a very wise choice to turn to these psalms. Now, I think this next story that Pastor Jack told from his history is perhaps a little bit of hyperbole, but it's a cute story. So let's tell it. Pastor Jack says many years ago, he went to the bank to borrow some money. He knew the banker well and had borrowed money from him before. He asked me how much I wanted, Jack said, and I replied, $5,000. Now, back then, this would have been a lot of money. The banker asked what security I had, and I said I had my word as security. Banker said, "No, Reverend. What collateral can you offer us?" And I said, I can offer you my signature. And he said, Reverend, it will be difficult for us to let you borrow $5,000 on your word and or your signature. That is, unless you have sufficient collateral. Suddenly, I said to him, Sir, if I don't walk out that door with $5,000 when I take over this bank, you will starve. Well, the president of the bank looked at Dr. Jack with interest, stood behind his desk, put his fingers on the desk as he leaned over and asked, and Reverend, just when do you plan to take over this bank? Dr. Jack says he replied, during the millennium. That's when. During the what? He said. And I said, during the millennium. That's when. He said, Reverend, what in the world is the millennium? I said, Sir, if you will give me a few minutes to talk to you and your workers, I will explain to you something you ought to know. The president, vice president, secretaries, and bank executives were summoned to gather in the conference room. You see where this might have been a bit of hyperbole, but it is a good story. And Pastor Jack sat at the head of the table explaining to them all about the millennium. I said to the bankers, in the millennium, men shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Little children shall lead wild beasts down the street, and they shall play at the hold of the serpent. The deadly serpent will not be poisonous, and the wild beasts will be tamed. When a man dies at the age of 100, it will be as an infant dying. I told them that during this kingdom age, Jesus would rule from Mount Zion, and the Christians would rule with him. I reminded the president that some Christians would rule over 10 cities and some over 5 cities, and that I was asking God to let me rule over 1 city, and that was Hammond. And I plan to take over this bank. You will come to me asking if you could borrow some money. I will ask you how much you need, and you will say $5,000. I will ask what security you have, and you will say my word. I will then ask what collateral you have, and you will again say my signature and my word. And I will say, Sir, neither your word nor your signature will do. And I pointed my finger at the banker, and I said, Sir, when I take over this bank during the millennium, you will starve. That's what. Well, the banker jumped to his feet, pointed to his secretary, and said, Quick, write Reverend Hyles a check for $5,000. Yes, beloved, there is one part of that story that is most definitely true. There is a millennium. There will be a kingdom reign. There will be Jesus reigning from Mount Zion. So let us read these Psalms, not just this one, but this whole group, and become excited about this marvelous expectation. It's coming. It's coming. There's a lot to happen before then. Troublesome period before then, but it's coming. And the way this psalm and these psalms, this little grouping, used by ancient Israelites, well, the dedicated Jew would use these psalms when discouraged, for these words would give him hope for a better day soon to come. So, in looking forward indeed to that better day, let's take a look at Psalm number 93, the first of this little mini group. It is sometimes titled The Eternal Reign of the Lord. The Lord reigns. He is clothed with majesty. The Lord is clothed. He has girded himself with strength. Surely the world is established so it cannot be moved. Your throne is established of old. You are from everlasting. The floods have lifted up, O Lord. The floods have lifted up your voice. The floods lift up their waves. The Lord on high is mightier than the noise of many waters, than the mighty waves of the sea. Your testimonies are very sure. Holiness adorns your house, O Lord, forever. I love it. Love it. Love it. Can't wait for it. All right. So, when you're hungry and thirsty for the coming of the Lord, it's a good psalm for you. Read it. Enjoy it. Sing it out loud. It's the truth. Learn it, live it, love it. You're not going to get any better. All right, this is it for One Pilgrim for today. God willing, your humble servant will return tomorrow. We'll take a look at Psalm number 94 from this little grouping of Psalms. Another prophetic psalm about the coming of our Lord. Till then, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and give you that perfect shalom, peace, that should surround your life if you know him. And I pray that you do. This is One Pilgrim. For now, I'm out.